Welcome to Martini time. So let's see where my monkey mind will jump today. I was watching, or have been watching, a Netflix series. It's an Indian series about the Buddha. And it's kind of Bollywood, but it's the story of the Buddha and the story of his father, his parents, and the intrigue in the palace, and the Siddhartha's awakening in his teachings. And so, so I'm in there's 55 episodes, and I think I'm in episode 35 or 36 or something. And so right now I'm in the part where the Buddha's giving his teachings, to his disciples and getting disciples and all that, you see. And he talked about the middle way. And that's thrown around a lot about Buddhism, the middle way. Go between the extremes. Which goes against what Goldwater said, Barry Goldwater, when he said, and I've been quoting this on my talks about Trump and the origin of the conservative right, and so Barry Goldwater said back in the 60s when he was running was that extremism in the defense of liberty is no vice, and moderation is no virtue in the defense of liberty. So he certainly wasn't practicing the middle way. So I wanted to talk about my experience and what I understand about the middle way, because it's very confusing. When you're in a lose-lose situation, for instance, suppose you had good intentions and you hurt somebody. So you hurt somebody, so you did hurt somebody, but you had good intentions. Are you innocent or are you guilty? You feel, well, I had good intentions, I'm innocent. But at the same time, my actions hurt somebody. So I'm guilty. What's the middle way? Can you go through innocence and guilt and come out in some other place? Where do you come out? Where you're innocent, or do you come out when you're guilty? How do you get this double bind off of you? How do you get this? It's like this, innocence, guilty, and they're both hanging around your neck. How do you become? What's the middle way? Does the middle way mean you're just one and not the other? Do you see the problem with the middle way? We like to think it works, but when you get in a lose-lose situation, you lose if you say you're innocent, you lose if you say you're guilty. What's the middle way? So I thought I would ask a clown. My uncle lived in Tampa, had a son named Tommy, and Tommy was he died in the 80s. He was a puppeteer, little Tommy. He was a puppeteer, lived in California, hung out with movie stars, and he did puppets with the woman that did lamb chops and all those people. And so, but this is a picture of Tommy when he was a little boy with Emmett Kelly the clown, because they lived in Tampa and the circus came there. My uncle was a photographer, so it's Tommy, clown, right? So when little Tommy got older, he became a puppeteer. And I got this all screwed up now, but this is anyway, it's all screwed up. But this is the clown he made. See, it's a puppet. So when he was he used to make puppets, and this was Emmett Kelly. Whoops, sorry, Emmett. This is that was Emmett Kelly, the famous Ring-a-Ling Barnum and Bailey Ring-a-Ling service. And if you notice, the clown The particular sad clown who makes you laugh. That's what clowns do. They take away your sorrow. They take away your suffering by making you laugh. So to me, that's the middle way. All right, the middle way is laughter when you are caught in a vice, when you're caught in a lose-lose situation. No matter what you do, you can't get out. No matter what you struggle, it's a straitjacket. You see, struggle makes me suffer. Struggle makes it tighter. Struggle creates the very thing I'm struggling against, you see. Lose, lose. This is what Trump's trying to get out of, but I don't want to get off on that. I was there this morning. So we're talking about the Emmett Kelly whose face is sorrow, but who makes you laugh. Something, it's alchemy there. That's alchemy. He turns sorrow into laughter. That's alchemy. You take the base metal of suffering and turn it into laughter. You take the base metal of pain and turn it into joy. So that's Buddhism. So when Buddha says all life is suffering, he means that just to live is to be guilty. Just to live is to live on life. Life kills life. You kill life. You are as life, you're living on life. You can't get out of it. You can be an ascetic, you can be a Jain. And their Jains are still there. That was a tradition that was already established when Buddha was alive. So the Jain wants to get free from suffering by not killing anything. And so they sweep the walk so they don't step on a bug. They wear a mask so they won't breathe a bug. They won't kill a bug, you see. And so they felt like if I can just deny death, killing life, I can transcend life and be free from suffering. Well, the Buddha said that was pooey. It doesn't work. So what's he talking about then? Buddha's the transcendent way. Now, what is transcendence? Well, we all know what it is. It's creativity. When you're in MacGyver is my perfect metaphor for that. He's in a double bind. He's in a fix. He can't get out. He can't get out. So he looks around and he creates a tool that gets him out of the fix. He creates a weapon out of what's given. It's like the food recipe game where you look in the refrigerator and you got to create a meal out of what's in there. You got to create something out of what's given. And what you create does not exist. So you have to have a creative idea, an impulse, an insight. Oh, and then you just start doing it. And it's spontaneous. So creativity is spontaneous. You can't make yourself be creative. You can't make yourself. You can't choose to be creative, or else everybody would be creative and make $1 million. You see? So you can't choose it. You can't make yourself creative by doing yoga and meditating and doing all these disciplines, you see. So you can't become creative by doing that. So how do you become creative? Well, the creative act is a surrender. You accept what's given. And that's what MacGyver does. He doesn't say, oh, I wish I had a hammer. I don't have a hammer. I wish I had a hammer. No. Oh, there's a rock. Now I got a hammer. I need a knife. Oh, I wish I had a knife. I wish I had a knife. Oh, there's a pencil. Now I got a knife, you see. So you create something that didn't exist before out of what's given. So our life is what's given. So we create who we are out of what's given. So how do we do that? Well, Buddha's first truth says how to do that. He says all life is suffering. So this moment, all life is suffering. That doesn't mean someone else's life. That means you. Your life is suffering. Now, what does suffering mean? Does that mean, oh, boo-hoo? No. No, it means it's a subtle thing. It's a quiet desperation that Thoreau talked about. can get extreme suffering, panic attack. But it's based on a quiet sense of being in exile, a quiet desperation of being separate from the world, being outside looking in, being separate from your own experience, never feeling complete, never feeling totally joyous. Something's always missing. Could be a little better. The food needs a little more salt, you see. There's never total acceptance of life and where you are because it's suffering. Well, who wants to accept suffering? So we look for the middle way. We look to choose our way out of this moment, you see. The future is where no suffering is. If I get this car, I won't have any suffering. So we think we can choose our way out of suffering by getting something, or by taking a different path, or getting a different relationship, or moving, or a different job, you see. Then there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that it doesn't end suffering. You know. So, this whole, the Four Noble Truths of Buddha then, or that life is suffering, okay, so what does that mean? So that means if all life is suffering, there's no way out. There's no way out. If you're in the ocean and everything is wet, there's no way out of wet. You see. So this is an absolute. There's no way out. So what does that mean? It means you shoot yourself? And so a lot of people think, oh, well, Buddhism is nihilistic. It's pessimistic. Yeah, not at all. Here's the trick. If all life were green, everything was green, could you see it? Could you see it? No. You would need to have one spot of color in order for green to snap into place. Just one pixel. If you don't have one pixel that isn't green, you can't see green. So, if everything were suffering, could you see it? Could you know it? Could you know it if everything were suffering? Well, that would mean that you would have to accept that everything is suffering. So if you totally accepted the suffering of life, that would be a transformative realization. That would be a transcendent realization. Because you would suddenly discover that life was totally full. In other words, it's very difficult to explain. So, if this is suffering and this is joy, and life is suffering, but creativity is joyous, and creativity happens when you accept what is given. Like MacGyver, you accept what is given. I don't have a brand new hammer. I got to create something. See, so that's an acceptance of what's given. He's accepting the suffering of his situation. I'm in a fix. There's no way out. But I accept it. So in the acceptance of conditions, in acceptance of life, creativity happens. And you create a new whole. Everything is its own opposite. So suffering has its own opposite of joy. And so that's compassion. And let's get back to the clown, okay? I need rescuing here. So here's the clown. And I always look at this and say, now look, this clown, this Buddha, is looking at this little boy, and he's seeing that in the 80s, when he grows up, a beautiful young man, he's going to get AIDS and die a horrible death. You see. To me, it's just, he is seeing his future and he's sad. He's seeing the sadness of life. The sadness of life is that everybody dies, everybody loses. Life is suffering in that life is lost. Life is impermanent. Everything goes. You can't cling to anything. Einstein says there's no place, there's no fixed viewpoint in the universe. Everything is moving. Nothing to cling on to. Feels like we're going down a drain hole. Clinging to this ideology, clinging to this religion, clinging to this Buddha, whatever, guru, save me, hanging on, going down the drain hole, you see. And there are a lot of periods in our life when we're kind of like just going around like that, but then suddenly the plug is open and we start going, whoa, 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 panic, 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 you see. So this is the idea that life is suffering, is that life is death. You see, life is death. It's not like life is separate from death. Life and death are the same thing because life feeds on death. Life feeds on life. Life eats life. Life is Pac-Man. You see. So we can't get out of that guilt. That I have to, the only way for me to live is for others to die. And I don't care if you're a vegetarian or not, you're still eating life. You see, it's just a bargain, you see. So this whole idea of the guilt of life, in a sense, kind of like makes us split life from death. So we choose life and we avoid death. But the transcendent act of the Buddha is that life and death are one. And that's compassion. Now compassion is not the separation of sorrow from joy. Now compassion does not mean I'm okay but you're suffering and I feel for you. No. Compassion means that my suffering and your suffering is the same suffering. My suffering and your suffering, my pain and your pain, is not two pains, not two separate pains, but one pain, one life. You see, life is not divided. There is only one life with many, 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 many faces. But the life is one, you see. But we are experiencing life as many. So we think the one is somewhere else, in the past or the future. All we see now is many faces. But life is now. Life is one now. But life is suffering. So in order to identify and become one with life, we have to accept the suffering. We have to see and accept our own pain. We can't avoid it. Can't hide it. We can't hide the Minotaur in the labyrinth, you see. And we can't blame it on others. So the accepting of my own pain is the acceptance of the pain of life and the first noble truth. You see. So this acceptance with the pain of life is unity with life. And unity with life is joy. That's oneness. Joy. Suffering. Joy. Suffering. Joy. That's what love is. Love is one life with two faces. One love, two faces. Compassion is one sorrow, two faces. One pain, two faces. So the clown is kind of like a metaphor for the compassion of the Buddha, because the clown is sad because he identifies and accepts the suffering of humanity, and yet he creates laughter and liberates you from the suffering, you see, through joy. So compassion is the fusion, the oneness of joy and sorrow. And this is why I like martinis as a metaphor. See, the martini is a mixture of gin and vermouth. Can't separate them. Sorrow and joy. Can't separate them. When you can't separate them, you transcend sorrow and joy and become laughter. You transcend sorrow and joy when you hold them together. Like these two monkeys, you see? They're held together in one glass, you see. So when we can hold sorrow and joy as one, we transcend it. And what is the transcendence? But laughter. But healing. But completeness. When we laugh, we're complete. I don't care how sad, how terrible your situation is. If you suddenly break out into a belly laugh, you transcend it. And then, of course, you come back and you feel better. But in the laughter, you're one. When people laugh together, there is only one laughter. Life is laughing. God is laughing. The Buddha is laughing. That's why all these Buddhas, the ones I like, look like that. Laughter. That's why Zen, I like Zen, because it's Buddhism with jokes. So, and you notice here with this little thing, all these little statues are very metaphorical. They mean something. Now look at his hands. What an odd way. I can't even do it. What an odd way. Why are he holding his hands like that? What an odd way is that? It looks like he's not doing that. He's turning it in towards each other. And it's like he's holding up the world. And these are the opposites, you see. Joy and sorrow. You know, the double bind. They're separate, you see. But he transcends it through his laughter. Anyway. So, with Emmett the Clown, I just thought of that before the talk, and I thought, well, there is the middle way. There. The middle way is laughter, which is transcendent of the sorrow. Laughter transcends the predicament. Laughter transcends the double bind, where you feel I'm lose-lose, you see. So how do you laugh? Well, you go watch Zorba the Greek. Right. You dance on the ashes of your defeat. You dance on the death of your plans. You laugh on the death of your expectations. You dance on the death of your future. When you laugh, you have no future. You're just here. And the laughter makes you one with life. So the whole cosmos is really laughing. Life is laughter. Life is play, you see. But when you separate life from death and try just to cling to life and get rid of death, you separate the one into two, and that is the cause of our suffering, says the Buddha. The separation of life into two opposites creates a lose-lose struggle. And you can't put Humpty Dumpty back together again unless you see the absurdity of it, the futility of it, and you just break out laughing. So put your hands together and laugh. So thank you so much for dropping in.